one of the big reasons I wanted to have you on and talk to you, basically, like little kind of backstory, I guess. Like lately, I've been kind of doing a lot of soul searching in my own hockey work and like what my path is forward. And I'm looking around and I'm like, what are the types of guys that are like doing well in hockey or moving hockey forward or
Hmm.
getting these nice hockey gigs and things like that. And I kind of had a little bit of an epiphany. It was just like everyone, all the real players in the industry are building things. Everyone's building things. Like the people who are, moving on to executive positions or just people who are getting a lot of attention in hockey, they're builders. They're all building stuff. And between me, being on your site, seeing all the stuff you're building, I've also been reading. I don't know if you're familiar with the agent Dan Milstein.
Yep. Gold
I've been
Star.
reading his
Yeah.
book. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So just guys like that, just as far as building stuff. And I was always someone who was like, hey, I'll scout California. And I just kind of had a little bit of like a soul search of like, let's like build something. So,
Hmm.
you know, being on your site and seeing all the work you do, all the hours you're putting into your scouting, it got me fired up. So,
Thank
yeah, I
Yeah.
was pumped to talk to you and kind of get to see a little bit behind the curtain on how you've built all that stuff.
I
So,
think that the hockey world is just a bunch of people that love hockey, love sports, and we've all grown up around it. We all have different things that brought us into here. So I feel like instead of trying to compete with others, we need to push everybody else up that actually is trying to work as hard as they can. And sometimes in any industry, there are people that work extremely hard but get pushed over, and their types of things that they create don't get acknowledged until they build something themselves, and then the noise is too big. And going into this, I knew I wanted to be in sports journalism, sports media, and what I wanted to do was maybe go into, you know, cronky sports journalism at ASU. And I realized that in today's era, we're getting more Pat McAfee's, more Stephen A. Smiths, more Skip Bayless. And I know Skip Bayless is getting kind of pushed out, but he's still going on First Take. And there are people like that that are really starting to monetize based on their platform and the community they create. Like if you see somebody saying the exact same thing, but they don't have the base that like a Nick Wright does from his show, you're not going to get the same views that he does, and you're not going to be able to compete with that. Because even if you're giving out great information, people don't care about that. They love the personality. And I think you have to put a personality in front of the company and the front of the page, and then you have to build out the respect in the industry and also put the people that have built the company and push them and like respect their work as well and try to learn off of everything. Now we have so much information out there that you can learn so much. Like in 2018, there was just not as much as the industry wasn't built out, but there was so many people that were putting their entire life's work into it, and they need to be cherished, and what they've done for the industry needs to be recognized more. And I think that we've come to a point in time where everybody's for me, for me, for me, and it's just we need to help out the people that have a real passion for this because the industry needs to become bigger. And how we get it bigger is not from the outside help of people that don't understand the industry. It's with the people that are putting their time and effort into dedicating their lives into it that are going to help push it forward. So you got to find your path, you got to find what you want to do and make it your life's goal. And I know like financially it might be very, very hard or difficult and you're climbing Mount Everest and you're looking from the bottom of the mountain, but at the same time as you continue to learn from people, I think that there needs to be more information out there. And I think that when we continue to build out this like, community, we will have people that will help others as well. And people have helped me, and I wouldn't be where I am without their help. But I think that it's a trickle down effect. The more money gets put in, the more development goes into the NHL, the more development goes into the minor or major junior hockey league, CHL, USHL. It's just a trickle down effect, and that will go into high schools as well. So I think that it's just finding what you want to do and trying to build it up to something that you love doing. So the sales part of it is very easy because it's something you truly can sell, and also the work that you're doing doesn't feel like work because you truly love doing it.
yeah, that's It's funny you say Mount Everest. That's a good reference. I literally have Mount Everest in my notes of things I was going to ask you. One of them being like, obviously everything you're building has come across completely genuine. Like
Mhm.
you could tell that you love the game and that's why you're doing it, as opposed to a lot of other people who, obviously there's a lot of money in the industry. People are doing things a lot of times for monetary gain and things like that, or clout, whatever you want to call it. Um, but I could see how genuine you are and your passion for the game. With that said, I did have the question though of what is your Mount Everest as far as when it's all said and done. Like, where would you like to be? Maybe you don't care about titles, maybe you do. But like, what's your Mount Everest in hockey? Like, what's your top? What's your pinnacle?
So getting into the industry was so hard for me, and honestly, I had to take a ton of different paths. Like famously, I went to college to be a nurse, and the building got hit by a hurricane, so they had to reduce the amount of people that were in, and I had good like testing grades, but since they pushed back on the amount of people that were into the program, it didn't work out, and it was the best thing that ever happened. I went into finance,
Wow.
studied abroad in Germany, did international business and marketing there, and I think that what my goal was to do was just be in the industry at some point. I couldn't have imagined it would have spiraled into this. So I don't really have an ultimate plan. I just want to create and push the standard of platforms higher in the industry. And I think that with like I just wanted to interview a player. I wanted to be able to be in the media scrums. I wanted to be able to be in hockey where it's going to be something that I can retire my mom with and also feel my passion. So I don't really have an end goal. I don't think that there is one. I think that there's a multitude of directions I can take, but I don't want to, first of all, limit myself, and I don't want to be in here because it can help me. I wanted to just be in sports my whole life. I think my connection I had with it with my late father was something that had pushed me to be in this space. Like I lost him when I was in high school as a freshman, and it was something that me and him always loved to do and watch hockey together. And I feel like that needs to be important because that was my push. That was the reason that I'm doing this as well, is because my love for the game was because of him too. And I just feel like I don't want to take anything from the game. I want to add to it. So whatever happens in the future, I have no expectations. So I think that will just make it a lot easier for me in terms of what's going to happen because I don't necessarily know and I don't really care. I just want to live in the present and play basketball with my friends, play video games, play with my dogs. Like that's what I really care about as well, and as well as watching hockey. So the fact I get to talk about hockey and people ask me questions, I think is pretty cool. So yeah, and also I want to help highlight some of the people that do great work in this industry that might not have the platform. So as my platform continues to get bigger, I think that I want to help push up these guys that really are in the trenches and are working extremely hard on their craft and only care about the future of hockey. Because it's if you're working in hockey space, like I think that it's not for monetary reasons. Sometimes it is, and I think that that's an interesting case, but I think that you can make money in finance. You could go into different areas like business marketing. I think that with hockey, it's more of a child, it's more of a game we played when we were growing up. Like if you want to be in here, you're in here for a reason. So I don't have really a plan.
That's awesome though, man. Like that's I feel like that really goes with your brand too. Like it's very apparent in your brand. Even seeing your interactions on X. Obviously we all see there's a lot of kind of dummies out there. Some people are real negative, and there's hockey accounts that are just purely based on taking the piss out of certain leagues or things like that. And I see you on there, and like that's not how you move at all. And like you said, like it's all about kind of collaboration and helping people out and kind of putting some goodwill out there. Like I don't know, people have this through their head, and I'm a real estate agent in LA, so I see this all the time.
Oh
But
wow.
people feel like you need to step on others or be a dick to kind of achieve what you're trying to achieve, and it's I mean that's so lame. So just
I agree.
having good people and seeing good people kind of in the hockey world, it's a breath of fresh air for sure.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I left finance. Everyone was trying to screw everyone over for a dollar, and that just makes no sense to me. Like, why are you trying to create enemies for yourself? Why are you trying to ruin other people's lives for money? Like, at the end of the day, this is a chance for us to, we only have one life. Like, why would you not live it the correct way in terms of being just a good person or not trying to do everything for money. Like, who cares about how big their house is or how many cars they have if they're screwing over others? Like, that makes no sense. So I left the finance area, even though it was profitable because of that. There was just too many guys that were trying to screw people over, and it was just upsetting. Because I don't think that the world should work like that, and unfortunately, I think our world does in some way. So I think hockey is more of a community based where it's like people are out there to help others and mentor more than in the finance section where you have to be connected heavily or earn your respect but still connected. And then once you're connected, people will come out of the woodwork and try to even screw you over too. So I think that those other industries, it's a shame because they are making money, but they don't see what how life should actually be in terms of just being a genuine person and actually not focusing on money. I think that that's the craziest thing.
Yeah, for sure. I've kind of gotten to a point too, and I would tell anyone kind of like myself is like, don't even try understanding it, you know?
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, it's a different type of person. Like I've racked my brain trying to understand why, certain colleagues in real estate or even in hockey sometimes. I've had a few encounters in hockey that weren't all that great, but you just kind of just it's a waste of time trying to understand uh, why some people move the way they do and will burn bridges and yeah, just leave all this kind of, as they say, bad vibes out there. I think that I don't know if I'm a huge karma guy, but I am somewhat. I wouldn't want to test it. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's just it is what it is. They're going to exist out there and just kind of let them be over there, I guess. But um, I was kind of going to save it for the end, but I think it's kind of relevant with this kind of string right here. But is speaking of like good people in hockey, is there anyone who you've had who've kind of maybe taken you under their wing a little bit, or someone who's taken time out to kind of share some of their knowledge or help you out in a way?
Yeah, there's been a ton of people. I mean, first and foremost, I think Marco D'Amico, Russ Cohen, Shane Malloy have really helped me in a multitude of ways. Stephen Ellis and Gabe Foley got me into the industry by I reached out to them in the summer years back, but I was just like, I don't know how to get into the industry. They said take a small contributor role, and your hard work will dictate how far you go. And I really took that to heart. I think when Stephen Ellis texted me, and I called him yesterday, like, but, and I told him, like, he helped me too. Like, we talk a lot, but in terms of people that have really helped me get into the industry, like Stephen Ellis was the person. If I wouldn't have gotten that text from him, I don't think I would be here at all in terms of the space. I don't know what I would be doing. I don't want to necessarily think about that. There's like a parallel universe of me doing something random. But in terms of like NHL Draft Pros, Mark, he was the first YouTube channel to have me on in a big way. Blue chip prospect Etienne LePage. He has been somebody that's been in my corner for a very long time, and he's the second biggest scouting YouTuber and has a big French base as well, and he's been teaching me a lot of things. I think that there's so many others like Hot Take Hockey, Nathan Grav, uh, those guys on the YouTube side. I've talked to Mike Bartner about haters before because he does such a great job at deflecting haters, and I think that that's also a thing as you get to a point, you start to get more people that don't like you. And I totally understand that. Like, that's just a different type of thing I was used to in a way. Um, I would also say I'm missing so many people, but like Sebastian Hein, Kareem from the lockdown prospects, like they they've kind of helped me hone in on how many prospects to evaluate instead of all 500 draft eligibles. I think that, they see it as a waste of time and because there's only some NHL teams' draft lists are 80, 100 players deep, 115. Like they're, it ruins the type of content and the type of evaluations that you could give on a player if you're focusing on so many guys, because at some point there's going to be a drop off. And if one guy is not evaluated at the exact same time, and not time, but the exact same time you put into him, then your entire list can be a sham in terms of, if you're not putting in the exact same amount of time for all these different players, then you shouldn't be able to evaluate all those certain players in that. And I think that was interesting. Mike Donahue, director of Blackhawks scouting, was somebody that has been in my corner. I know we haven't talked a lot, but he's somebody that has given me a lot of confidence in what I do as well. So those are some people as well. And I'm missing a lot, but there's just been a lot of people that have helped me, like Cam Robinson, Chris Peters, Mike Morial is a huge one for sure. Coach Petey, who does great work on his Inside the Coaches Room. Um, I think I'm missing a lot, but like the Bunker Boys as well, they do great work. Every time I talk to them, I learn something new, and we also debate on something new that I didn't think we would debate on. Kyle Pereira is a good one too. Like his goalie system has been fantastic that he's created. So it's just like trying to understand other people's types of creations that they build, and then thinking about like my trade model as well. So it goes into how he sees goalies, and I think it's helped me just internally think about my goalie rankings more based on the type of attributes a goalie should have and the skills that they have and how it should rank into a system. Because I think for me, like evaluating goalies is probably the hardest part for me in terms it's kind of
I
like a
agree.
quarterback. I don't necessarily know how to pinpoint it down. And learning from him, I think he's helped me in a lot of ways for that.
Yeah, well, you weren't kidding about, building a community because you're kind of it feels like you've collaborated in some sort of way with almost everyone. So
Yeah.
that's a superpower right there. Not everyone could kind of collaborate and play nicely and network in that way. But as you see, that's a total superpower. As far as like getting kind of technical into the scouting, and obviously if you have any secrets, keep those to yourself. But um, what are your kind of methods, or even methods you picked up from some of these guys who've kind of shared their methods with you? Like, what are your ways of evaluating players? Like, do you really are you heavy taking into account like projection as far as what a player is going to be, 5 years later? What are your kind of methods, and how do you get around actual scouting?
I love this question. It's an absolutely unreal question. I wish everybody asked to this. Honestly, I've learned so much during my time on the processing aspect of it. Like for me, it used to be more on skill, production, compete level, skating. I thought that was like the end all be all. But what Shane Malloy in his Art of Scouting has said, and it's an incredible book, so please check it out if you want to get into scouting. It was talking about more of the B game as well as if you're an NHL player, you're not going to be the same player you were in juniors. You're going to have to be able to tailor your game or teeter your game or tinker with any of those words with the type of system you're playing with the type of players you're playing with, different types of playoff style hockey as well. So when I look like at a guy like Brady Martin, I was a little confused on why he was drafted as high as he was, but then when you look back at his B game and what he does away from the puck, and it's just fantastic. He's physical. He's going to put his body on the line for the team and work as hard as he can. He can compete. I like farm players more. Carson Carroll's is the exact same way. I think that there's really something in that different types of strengths that we see, even for a smaller player. For me, I'm starting to learn about more smaller defensemen. You have to take a little bit more of a risk with in a draft, so that's why they pushed down in the draft. There was none drafted in 2025 draft, which was really interesting, and I think it's a turning of the tide. But we are seeing younger players that are forwards getting drafted as high, and it's definitely interesting because teams are not taking a chance on smaller defensemen, but they're taking a chance on smaller forwards because they realize the utilization of the smaller forwards in the NHL is actually a lot. It's going to continue to cycle into this, but what we're seeing is, which I don't want to be a parrot, but everyone is saying it, like the smaller, skilled, faster pace is the future of the NHL. So when you look at a guy like Logan Stankoven, yeah, he's sub 6 feet, but he plays like he's 6'4". When you look at Vigo Bjork, he's sub 6 feet, but he plays like he's 6'1" or 6 foot. Like they're tougher to push off the puck. They're not afraid to go to the middle of the ice. They create havoc in front of the net. And even though they're smaller, they just like glide open to open space. So it's easier for them, I think, to achieve greatness in the NHL. Before, when it was like the early 2000s, I think we're seeing a cycle. And also, when you have the puck on your stick for about a minute and a half and 2 minutes, based on what Shane Malloy has said, then your game away from the puck is really going to be have to be exceptional. And if you're a very skilled player that doesn't have a lot of engagement in the defensive zone, and there's worry on the 5-on-5 play, as well as you don't know what he could contribute when he's not engaged offensively, then you're going to have an issue because in the playoffs, the ice definitely shuts down a little more. It's not going to be as open as regular season. You're going to have to be playing against tough talent. So in terms of the types of elite forwards that I used to put on my board higher, I've kind of pushed back on that, and I like to see guys with better B games. One of them that comes to mind is JP Hurlbert. JP Hurlbert, I think, is at minimum the type of physical player you need in the NHL because he's getting point 0.8 hits per game every single time he lays the body. He's also using his hands to push off and take away their leverage, and most of the players that he hits actually do fall on the ice, as well as he's an offensive dynamo. He's smart. He's got a nail, like he's just nails out there. I think that's a player that can translate into the NHL, but in terms of a player that's all offensive all the time, you can't be that. And I think JP Hurlbert has the floor, like to be a guy that plays in the NHL because of his physicality and his game away from the puck. I don't think that we talk about it more. One thing that does scare me about McKenna is, you know, could theoretically any prospect can not live up to his potential. And I think that Gavin McKenna is an elite superstar-esque player if he hits his potential. But if we're talking about in 5 years of, oh my God, how did he not reach his potential? I think there are red flags and signs. If his 5-on-5 play can get a lot better, then it's not going to have to worry. But I think that we need to have longer ranges of floor and ceiling than even I do. Like Shane Malloy famously says, he hates the term middle six because what is middle six? It's either the fourth forward on your team or the ninth. And or yeah, so like that's such a huge gap. And if you're putting middle six on a bunch of guys, then what do you really you have to
Yeah.
build a team. So it's really interesting. I think that there's a lot of ways you could look at scouting, especially with I mean, there's also tiers for goalies and defensemen, um, how a player reads the game. Are they smart enough? Like, what are they doing off the ice? Like, personality wise, are they going to be a good team fit? Are they willing to learn from scouts and GMs and coaches that are telling them to implement stuff in their game? And if they're not, I think that that's one of the reasons that they don't reach their full potential. So there's a ton that goes into it. And you're projecting 17, 18, 19-year-olds for overagers in a draft class, and you're projecting 5 to 6 years out. And sometimes a player just hits their inflection point whenever they do. Like sometimes they just figure it out. And it's very hard to scout based on if they figure it out. And sometimes they just don't figure it out, or development in a specific league that they're playing in doesn't go wrong, or there's risks, injury, or anything like that. You can't really think about I think the average viewer doesn't think about how much has to go into it, but there's a lot. And the people that scout for a living, it's an incredibly tough job. And I think that, as one of the things I was saying, we have to think about how their process is and how hard it is to really evaluate this guy because it is hard. It's not an easy job.
Yeah, for sure. And funny enough, you're mentioning kind of the NHL draft eligibles who are a little bit older. Funny enough, when you really think about WHL scouts, which is, what I was doing at one point, you're watching like 14-year-olds.
Yeah.
So I used to kick myself in the ass if I was wrong about a 14-year-old. And I'm like, oh, what did I miss? Like, what happened? He's the top goal scorer on his team. Like, and I'm like, oh, he got a girlfriend.
Mm,
It's just like there's so many even more variables when some of these major junior scouts like have to deal with. You're watching kids that are really young. So it's almost like a whole different ball
Yeah.
game. In my opinion, it's a lot harder. Um, and unfortunately, these guys get paid a lot less than like say an NHL scout or pro scouts. But uh, yeah, there's as you said, like it cannot be downplayed. There is so much that goes into it.
I think that's a great example, and it's so hard at the lower levels. Again, it's all levels. There's levels to the game. As soon as you're talking about U15 or U16 and kind of saying about like Cato Rourke, if he was going to get exceptional status, that's going to change his development in a way. What's that going to do? Is there's just so many different types of things the way that you can think about, as well as there's so many different leagues overseas, and we have to start thinking about the watered down leagues that are starting to happen, especially like I was talking to Scott Wheeler and I brought up a point on Liga, and he was like, Liga is not necessarily as a big of a powerhouse as it used to be. So even in some of the other leagues, there are leagues that are taking over, and it's kind of becoming more type of a soccer-esque tier where there's a ton of different leagues, but you're seeing like, you know, the Premier League and Barcelona and wherever, like Liga or La Liga or whatever it's called. But like those places now are becoming a cornerstone in the overseas for soccer, and it always has been. But in terms of what's happening in hockey, I think that there's also going to be a trend because there's going to be more money going into specific leagues, and it's going to help development. It's going to help what they can play the players or pay the players, like nutrition. I think so much of the trickle down effect of what's happening with hockey and money, especially with NIL and the NCAA, has to go down to think about what kind of player, what are you doing as a player? Like in the NCAA, we're seeing the development of players become better. Not necessarily is going to help their draft stock if they go into the draft, like Pete Verhoefer, Logan Hensler in some cases. But in terms of what we're seeing with some players like Porter Martone, his skating was bad. He got to skate 4 times a week plus. Plus he added 9 pounds of muscle in the NCAA. That's going to continue to track for these guys. And MSU is getting only more and more money. They were obviously a basketball powerhouse. Once NIL started, they just took over in terms of the type of money that they can have because they're so loaded and they understand the opportunity here. And now they have like Chase Reed, Nikita Klepov, like Mason West, Ethan Belchez, Shane Van Sage, Tommy Blyle, I mean, so many other guys. And when you look at it like that, there's going to be a lot of super teams in the NCAA now. They're building like the Cavaliers in the 2010s, like it's just or the Miami Heat in the 2010s. Like it's just very interesting how things are being played out, but it's all based on money, and that trickle effect of money and more money coming into the industry is going to actually help development. So one day I was talking to Mike Fink, who does his show, and he was talking about how he asked me a question: if is there going to be another bad draft, and when there's going to be two more expansion teams plus more coming by 2030 plus, then we're going to see more prospects with more opportunity. There's going to be more viewership of prospects because people are going to want to know about these guys. Less of them are going to, or more of them are going to have more opportunity, and the standard is going to get set for higher hockey and higher games, and the standard will be set in more of a way. So in terms of the money that's coming in, I think it'll be a trickle down effect into high school, um, even lower ages of that as well. So I think even the U.S. winning hockey, the Olympics, I think also helps the brand because they obviously have not won since 46 years. So when you look at it that way, I think that the overall landscape of hockey is continuing to grow and starting to become people are starting to notice how incredible the playoffs are. So there's just so much that goes into it. I mean, I could continue talking about this for hours, but this is something I think about a lot, and I think it's exciting.
Yeah, for sure it is. Speaking of exciting, who's your fun pick of this coming draft? Who's the guy? Maybe someone that maybe not everyone's heard of, or
Hmm.
someone who you just when you see his name called, you're gonna be pumped for that fan base.
Honestly, like a guy that might go fifth, sixth, seventh, or even undrafted is Calder Varga for me. I just love that guy. I've not gotten to interview him, but 2 years ago in summer scouting, like I thought he was one of the best performers for USA internationally. And I don't know why it's just he's not on a lot of people's radars, especially as well as Mikey Burchild. I mean, this guy was a top five projected pick a couple years back, and I get the sense that, yeah, he didn't continue to grow. He might not have developed his game in the way, but I think that there is real talent there and definitely a nice upside play. I think that when you put him into the same tiers where Cam Schmidt went last year at 94 at Dallas, he was projected to go in the first round for most of the year, and then he kept falling and falling, and then the Dallas Stars picked him up. I think that would be a good range. Maybe he falls past that, but I still think he should easily be in the top 100 players. And there's like, I think Philip Ruzicka is a fun one. He's a 6'8" goalie playing for the Wheat Kings, and I just like the type of upside you could get with a 6'8" goalie. That is something that I want to just see how it works out. I'll be very excited for a team, but again, it's just a lottery ticket, which most prospects after the top 15 pretty much are. Like the percentages go down, they drop down pretty high, and that's why I don't like when fan bases get mad at their front offices or scouting
Hmm.
directors when they're picking 28th and their guy doesn't work out because it's like if he did work out, they would just be like, oh, he's not good enough. He's not a first round pick. But at the same time, it's like there's only some odd players that ever play 200 games in the NHL, and it's a privilege to play in the league. And there's a lot of players that are drafted. Obviously, once we get to the expansion teams, it's going to continue to increase, and the data will have to change. But those are some guys. I like Adam Valentini. I know that he had some stuff going on. I like Oscar Hemming. I like Wyatt Cullen a lot. Um, those are obviously some easy first, second round picks. But Malcolm Gastrin is also a fun one, Milton Gastrin's brother. I think that he could be a seventh or sixth rounder. That could be interesting. Um, I like the way his brother plays. It's winning hockey. I know he got scratched for the championship gold medal game, which I didn't think he should have because he was the captain for that Swedish team growing up and most of those players. And I mean, he was a captain, assistant captain, whatever it was. Like he has been a leader for that team, and you can't scratch like a player like that when the value of taking him out of the lineup it's it doesn't make sense because he should have been there. He plays a really good B game. So Malcolm is very similar, and I feel like he could be a late round steal. I know Malcolm went 37th to the Capitals last year in the second round, but I think we need to start looking at Malcolm Gastrin and Lucas Radojevich should have went into the draft last year. I mean, he was draft eligible, but he wasn't drafted out of Muskegon. I think that as a sub 6 foot defender, if there were somebody that would make it, like even Thomas Galvis could be in this discussion, but I just like his game. And that's for the later round picks. Obviously, there's two 5'11" defensemen in Villeneuve and Ryan Lynn that are going to go in the first or even second round. I think it would
Hmm.
be a mistake for them to go in the second round just based on value. But those are some guys that I think would be interesting, like Ethan McKenzie, who's an overranger, is interesting. Yakov Vanek is interesting. Like Sokolovsky, who's 6'8" left-handed defenseman, I think is very enticing. He moves well. He eliminates players when they try to go towards the net. He wins his board battles. He can pass. He can skate. He doesn't look like a giraffe out there, which is what you kind of want with a player that's over 6'6". So I think those are some guys.
And I got something for you here. We'll kind of wrap this up on this one, but I'll I'm curious your thoughts on this as far as like projecting players and stuff. We could kind of also project it and kind of get out our crystal ball on where the landscape of hockey's going.
Hmm.
And obviously, like you mentioned with the NCAA, so much has changed. Um, I made a tweet, if they're still called that, the other day, and I'd be curious kind of to know your thoughts. In my opinion, I think it's kind of trending toward uh, the CHL being a feeder league for the NCAA and the USHL being a feeder league to the CHL. Obviously, there's going to be outliers, and it's not for every player. I feel like generally it's kind of trending in that direction, and that's also not meant in a disparaging way at all. I think all those leagues are outstanding and serve great purpose. But that's kind of what I'm feeling like it's trending toward. If I'm a player or an advisor, that's kind of where my head would be at, what my thoughts would be. What about you? Do you feel like there's any truth to that, or
What I think should happen is with the NHL's partnership and wanting to expand with the USHL, I think that there needs to be a media deal there in terms of they're providing a lot more media for the USHL so that it helps out USA Hockey in terms of like more viewings on the NTDP and getting people
back up the
actually
brake
excited.
truck for Johnny Lazarus?
Yeah, seriously, like he does incredible work. Um, and in all honesty, for what should happen in United States hockey should be the NHL helps with the development so that more people are playing hockey at an earlier age. You get NHL players in there into the USHL, especially during the season or off season or whatever it is. If you find time and they're in like USHL, like have these players be mentored more by NHL players if there is a partnership, which there is, and the NHL continues to want the USHL to develop. So I think that with the NCAA, with the NIL deal, like the NHL should prioritize the USHL in terms of getting them whatever they need to reach that next level. And when I think of what next level is, it's just thinking about the development of the players that have come out of the USHL lately and start realizing like obviously it wasn't the end all be all, but Celebrini, Fantilli, Cutter Gauthier, a lot of these guys came out of there. Frank and Azar, I mean, you go down a list and after they leave, it's back when Celebrini is a BU product, but he came from Chicago Steel first. So I think that there needs to be more marketing there, especially when they know they have a good player. Like,
Mhm.
I think that it's going to be interesting to see how everything plays out because we're seeing players like seeing teams from the Q and the WHL kind of have a tough time, uh, and the OHL is kind of becoming the CHL standard. When you look at the USHL, like the NTDP has a great list of player names, but they were at the bottom of the standings chart this year. So that just kind of talks about how good the USHL is. I just think that there needs to be more marketing. I think that it's a league that can help expand the USA market because no matter what kind of hockey it is, it's still hockey. There needs to be more for the development of the game. And if you go into do events with the USHL players with schools that are starting out, do floor hockey more, ball leagues, like there's an opportunity for these players and kids to grow up learning about hockey and loving the game because that's when you start loving it and that's when it's ingrained in you at an early age. So I think that there needs to be a lot more of that. And with the NHL, I don't think that it would honestly just be a tax write-off for them if they provided more money of types of services that they can do for the United States. And this is something that I think is just an easy decision. I know that there's been some times where we've seen a league just fall off the face of the earth with talent, and I don't think that should happen with the USHL. It's such a fundamentally good development league, which is turning into a development league for the NCAA, which I don't necessarily like. I want it to be competitive with the USHL, but or with the NCAA, but I think the USHL could turn into a younger league that is getting the prospects younger than they are now, and I'm not sure how that would work out because it is a more physical league. It's more gritty. You have to have a better compete level. It's not as structured in terms of a hockey league like the NHL. It's more AHL than anything, in my opinion. Even though like AHL to NHL in terms of when I'm comparing the USHL to the NCAA. So I think it is interesting, but I think that there's a real opportunity for the USHL to grow and the CHL to grow, and there's more players that are going to be coming up in the pipeline because there's more money going into the development. But we need to start pushing money into areas that don't play hockey so that everyone at least knows about hockey. I know that I was talking to Stephen Ellis yesterday. He was talking about people on his ball hockey team in 2016 or 2015 didn't even know who Connor McDavid was. Like, that's a disservice. And in 2018, we saw more people get into the scouting space. more personalities, and I think that's what we need as well for USHL and CHL. Like we need more personalities in those, and for some reason, some of those uh, like podcasts are not being pushed out. I think that the people that are actually dedicating their life to doing it should be pushed out more, and then they would get more followings, and then you kind of emphasize social media to promote your product. So like TikTok, YouTubers, Instagram, Facebook. There's so many different ways that you could promote your product without actually having to pay for like a Super Bowl ad. Like my company now has over 200 million views in the last 12 months, and a view in the Super Bowl ad gets about 7 million, and we're not even monetizing the view count yet. And it's just like you're paying $7 million for an ad that no one's going to remember because they're either not like they're watching the commercials, but commercials have only gone down in value in terms of the creativity that it brings. But also, you're putting $7 million or whatever it is for a 30-second slot, and you're barely getting anything out of it. Because, yeah, some of those will hit, but you have to also develop the commercial.
Hmm.
So I think that the way that media and commercials are done should be based on, as well as TikTokers, YouTubers, and social media. You saw like the power fighting or the power slap that Dana White
Yeah.
did, and the way that he marketed it was by bringing every single influencer with over 5 million followers there for free. He invited them, got them some appetizers, whatever it was, probably like a cool gift bag, whatever. But they brought hundreds of millions of people with their views, and I think that it's very easy. Like if the NHL wanted to bring content creators with 5 million views, just get them like a voucher for the concession stands and free tickets or something like that, or an interview. Like you can easily double or triple your view counts in a very short period of time. And I just think that it's kind of really easy to do so, but it's not my place to say. But yeah, the NHL is such an easy product to sell, so it's very interesting to me. This is something that I think about a lot in terms of the marketing aspect of it, especially internationally. Like even the NFL, they are doing games in London. The NHL should be doing a lot more of that stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, very interesting.
Okay. Last note. Where can people go to check out all the cool stuff you've built out, your mock draft tools, and like I said, I was playing around on there the other day. It is awesome. Where could people go to check that out, and what could they find on there?
Well, I appreciate you, Nick. I know we've been talking for a long time, and it's always nice to collab with people that have a very similar vision in this industry. And I appreciate you for doing that. And I want everybody to follow you first and foremost. But if you guys do want to go onto an interactive app that's a one-stop shop for mock drafting, seeing prospect hubs, seeing scouting reports, as well as the franchise mode that's all year round for NHL, you can buy out players, trade players, extend players, assign players, UFAs or RFAs. That's all at draftprospectshockey.com. And if you want to use the simulator, it's just /simulator, but it's already on the homepage and everything. You have the creator rankings. We've partnered up with like Stephen Ellis, Nathan Grav, Hot Take Hockey, Draft Prospects Hockey, and so many others. So if you guys want to check that out, as well as my X and YouTube are at the Prospect Dawn. So if you guys want to check any of that out, as well as Draft Prospects Hockey is on X, TikTok, and YouTube. So if you guys do want to support, it's completely free, and I really appreciate everybody. But that's not why I do this. So if you guys don't want to, just like continue to tell people and talk about how much you love hockey. I think that's kind of the ultimate goal in this space is just to bring more conversation towards hockey, and don't be afraid to say your opinion, because if you have an opinion on a player and you're just going with consensus, then it's a disservice. So just continue, and if you want to be on the spot, find your passion. And if you want to reach out to me on X, like I will give you tips and tricks and advice that I've learned along the way. So I appreciate you for having me on, Nick, and we'll have to do this again sometime.
Yeah, for sure, man. This was awesome. Thanks so much for coming on and dropping some knowledge and letting us take a peek behind the curtain on all that you've got going on.
Of course, man. I appreciate it.